Freedom Fridays, number 3. 2A News, baby. Once again here, Pew Pew Nation. What's up, militia? Hope you guys had a fantastic week. You guys are not going to believe this, but somebody done pissed off the New York State governor. Oh, she is very much triggered. All right. If you guys haven't heard, the Supreme Court did a recent ruling, written by Judge Clarence Thomas, who struck down a New York handgun licensing law that basically required New Yorkers who want to carry a handgun in public to show a special need, to defend themselves. Really. I mean, this is something that is instrumental. It's, very, very instrumental to the 2A community. Very instrumental to New Yorkers, who basically want to be able to carry because of the way crime is going. I mean, crime is just absolutely rampant, as you guys know, and it's not just in New York, it's in the entire country for that matter. Okay. And basically what they've done is, and I'm going to get a little bit more into this, but they basically took something good and they've made it absolutely even harder now to be able to, extend the Second Amendment to we, the people in the state of New York, to be able to defend themselves against crime. They really have. But hey, let's go ahead and take a look at, this is coming from NBC, out of all places. Here's what they had to say about this.
To NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams, who is live for us on this. Pete, what do we know?
Well, it was 14 years ago that the Supreme Court said that the Second Amendment does provide an individual right to have a gun, but they said it was at home for self-defense. And ever since then, the court has declined to answer the question, well, what about the part of the Second Amendment that says keep and bear arms? What about guns in public? And today, the Supreme Court has answered that question by a vote of 6-3 in an opinion written by Justice Clarence Thomas, saying that the Second Amendment does provide a right to have a gun outside the home. Now, the law in question in New York said there's no right to carry a gun openly in New York, but to get a concealed carry permit, a person had to go to the county sheriff and show some special need.
All right. So special need. What is a special need? A special need, from what I gathered in this, was a need, let's say, for example, you're a jeweler. Okay, and you do your own jewelry sales, meaning that you carry jewelry in your vehicle, which in New York, it's kind of weird because a lot of people rely heavily on public transportation, especially in New York City. But let's just take New York as a state. So you're a jewelry salesman, right? And you travel from point A to point B, right, to go see clients to, make your sales, right? Well, gosh, I mean, people are going to see you. People are going to know you after a while. Word is going to get around. Okay. And they're going to say, hey, this guy here, he sells jewelry, man. So, he'd be a great, great target, to hold up and take his stuff. Right. So obviously you as a sales guy, you now have yourself a special need. All right. And you need to carry a weapon to defend yourself, not only your life, but also your property. That's what they're considering a special need. What are other factors of special need that you think may be needed? Well, how about somebody that's in the security business? How about somebody that, just deals with sensitive material or products for that matter? Okay. What about social workers? That they have to go into, poorer neighborhoods and stuff like that where crime is obviously higher. Okay, because they've been run, by Democrats forever. For example, Spanish Harlem or Harlem for that matter. Again, I'm using the city as an example, maybe some areas in Buffalo, I'm Rochester for that matter, right? I mean, there's areas, there's pockets where crime is very high compared to others, right? So depending on what you do for a living, you qualify now for a special need where they will consider that, take it into consideration in order to give you a carry permit to defend yourself. Okay. But it gets better. Let's continue.
Something beyond just a general desire for self-defense. And today the Supreme Court said that's unconstitutional. That puts a limit on the right to have a gun. So the Supreme Court says, number one, states cannot put these special restrictions on getting a gun for a concealed carry permit. Now, this decision obviously will have an immediate effect in New York, and it'll also affect the 7 other states that have similar laws: California, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. But the opinion also says that states can restrict areas, sensitive places is what the opinion says, where guns can be off limits. But this is a very important ruling for Second Amendment rights, the second big Second Amendment ruling in our history. This answers the questions, what about guns outside the home? And we'll have to wait and see in future cases how this will restrict the ability of states to enact gun control, to try to keep guns out of sensitive places or restrict the possession of guns in public places outside the home.
That issue of sensitive places, Pete, had come up during oral arguments. No, the suggestion that perhaps on mass transit, like in subways or on university campuses, this could be something that states will want to take more action on.
Well, the paradigm question during the oral argument was, what about Times Square? Aren't there certain places where guns should be off limits, where cities should be concerned about security? But the subway question actually went the other way, because Justice Alito, one of the members of the majority here, said, what about somebody who works late at night and rides the subway and goes home in a high crime area? Shouldn't they be able to carry guns as well?
Pete, you also answered another key question here, which is how broadly this decision is written, because there are at least half a dozen other states that would, in theory, be immediately impacted. It sounds like that will be the case, that these other states may need to take action to handle what laws they have in place. I know that the New York governor has said that she is prepared to take further action and to push back on this in any way that she can.
Okay. So, yeah, she does have a point. But again, remember, they are missing the point. Okay, they're missing the point. This was something that, and I have my transcript here, so I get this right for you guys. The Supreme Court, all they did here was basically rule on something very, very, very simple. Their decision, okay, pay attention to this. The people that are pushing for gun control are reacting to this decision, because this decision is saying nothing more than, yes, people have a right to carry a firearm to protect themselves in public. That's all this is saying. Okay. Again, all this decision is saying is that people have the right to carry a firearm in public. In other words, outside the home. Okay. The Second Amendment says that the right to keep and bear meaning you can carry it on you, arms shall not be infringed. That's it. It doesn't get any simpler than that, guys. And what these clowns are saying, okay, is that they're going to put special, sensitive places that are going to be deemed, you can't carry your firearm in this designated sensitive place. You can't carry it here. You can't carry it there. So, all right. Okay, so where does the permit argument come in? Let me go ahead and read it. So I'll circle back, to this right here, and continue with this right here. All right. So you now have every anti-gun and anti-gun group and anti-gun politician, and even your president, right? Saying that this was not a right decision. Well, how can that be? How can that be not a right decision? They don't believe that you have the right to carry a firearm for protection. They don't agree with the Second Amendment. Okay. It's not about making reasonable gun control laws which really there shouldn't be any whatsoever, in my opinion, because again, what part of the rights of the people to, not infringe do you not understand? Okay. It's written clearly in the Second Amendment. Okay. The bottom line, guys, is that they don't want you to have guns, period. They just don't want you to have guns. All right. Wow.
Well, I think one of the follow-on cases will be, what does the court mean by sensitive places? And our understanding is that the court doesn't say much about that. It doesn't define that much. And that may be where the action is on these, on going forward on gun control, is where can states say guns are not allowed? Certainly you would think schools, churches, but what about how are sensitive places described? Any place people gather, any crowded places? I mean, many people who advocate less restrictions on guns say those are the very places where guns are needed for self-defense.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine where are guns not going to be allowed because they are deemed a sensitive place? I mean, seriously, a sensitive place? Well, gee, hang on a second, because there's something weird here. Schools not allowed. Well, where do the majority of your mass shootings happen lately? Schools where there are no guns. Okay. Churches. Well, with the exception of my state, okay, where I live at, which is Georgia, okay, I'm going to say maybe a year ago, probably going closer to 2 years ago, our governor passed a bill which went into law where now you can legally carry in a church as long as you are a concealed carry permit holder. Let's make that very clear. You have to have a permit, a concealed carry permit, to be able to walk into a church, okay, carrying a firearm. Why not? A lot of church shootings happen, right? I mean, that's one place where, the criminal, okay, is, oh, there's a lot of people in there. Great place to go on a shooting rampage, if you will. It would be like shooting fish in a barrel. Pardon the pun, but you know what I mean, right? So yeah, public places, parks, large gatherings, sporting arenas, okay, large gatherings, okay. I'm telling you, wherever there are large gatherings of people, those are going to be more prone, okay, for these psychopaths, okay, to go in and shoot up the place. So yeah, you need to have the ability when you enter or leave these places to be able to defend your life, right? Oh no, they're coining this, areas, special areas, sensitive places, if you will, sensitive places. Well, let me ask you this: the gun-free zone signs, how are those working out? Right? Because they're all over schools, they're all over churches, and depending on what state you're in, they're all over these, these areas where gun-free zone, no guns allowed. That's where the majority of your shooters happen. They happen to frequent these places because they know that no one's. See these idiots, they're obeying the law, right? And there's no guns are allowed. The sign says so. No guns allowed. So therefore, I don't have to worry as much about anything. Why? Because I don't obey the law. I don't need a concealed carry permit. I don't need anything. I can just take my blaster, go in there and take care of business. And that's just the way that goes. It's just nuts. But I'm going to continue reading here, and then I'm going to play what the governor of New York was, how she responded to what you just heard the NBC talk about. Okay. They want to get to the point where, they can basically just ban handguns, like I've said before, but they don't want to give anything. They don't want to compromise, because when they keep saying about, oh, compromise, but let's be honest here. When you talk about compromising, okay, it's very, very simple. Compromising means, a couple of parties are going to take some things, other parties are going to take others, walk away with an item or something. And, but what they want is they want to walk away with everything and you walk away with nothing. So how's that a compromise? Because at the end of the day, that's what they want, guys. So basically, just wrapping this thing up here, according to this writing, they just want to get to the point where they can ban handguns, but they don't want to give anything, like I said. So when they lose something, like the ability to restrict people's rights in New York to carry a firearm to protect themselves, all of a sudden they get really, really mad. Okay, the court made it clear that the Second Amendment's guarantee of the right to keep and bear arms protects the broad right to carry a handgun outside the home for self-defense. Okay, but New York Governor Kathy Hochul, okay, thinks different. New York, with this passing of this, what the Supreme Court just did, yeah, you know what? New York is going to go ahead and tell the people, oh, hey, hold on a second there. You want a permit? Sure, we're going to hand you permits all day long. as many as you want. Take all the and by the way, you're not going to need that special needs clause. Doesn't matter anymore. Nah, you can just go ahead and apply for a permit for whatever the case may be, and we will go ahead and issue you that bad boy. All right. And you can have at it. You can basically have at it. No restrictions anymore. Well, you can say that's fine, no restrictions anymore, but with the exception of one thing, and that one thing is basically going to be New York State's governor. She has a real problem with that. Let's go ahead and just take a listen, to what Governor Kathy is saying, which to me, in my opinion, guys, it is just absolutely freaking ridiculous. It just is.
We are not going to allow this to happen on our subways. We just had a shooting a few weeks ago. I'm not going to allow it in your schools or churches or all kinds of places. So we're going to be crafting that language right now, because I'm not ceding my right and my responsibility as the governor of this state that wants protections. I'm not giving that up.
So the breaking news of the night in terms of New York's reaction is you are calling back the legislature.
Yes, we
and
are.
You are saying we need to write a new law with an eye on what the Supreme Court said today to try to find a way to thread these legal needles to create enough protection for New Yorkers against, it's basically protection against the Supreme Court.
Yes. Yes, I will. I'll go right up to the line. I'll make sure that it's legally sustainable. I'll have constitutional scholars advising us. We'll get it right. But I'm not prepared to surrender. And surrendering means more loss of life in a very populated urban area like our cities. Today, I had a convening of Mayor Adams and the 5 upstate mayors from Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, and Yonkers. I brought them all together. And I said, this is going to be a problem for your law enforcement. Think about this. When our police are out in the streets trying to protect people, how are they supposed to know when they see some evidence that someone's carrying a gun? Is that a lawful concealed carry, or is that someone prepared to do harm to another individual and maybe go into a grocery store like in Buffalo and shoot everybody up? That's what we're facing here. This is going to be a real challenge for law enforcement and thwarting our efforts to just keep people alive. We have the nation-leading laws in place. I signed them over 2 weeks ago. We're proud of that. This is a response of what happened in Buffalo and Uvalde. And we have to stop letting this happen. And what the Republicans are doing, the Supreme Court.
What Republicans are doing is trying to avoid more of these mass killings that you people are bringing on. Okay. A challenge for law enforcement. Yes. When you have defund the police mentality. Okay. And when you have a lack of law enforcement like you do in New York City, yeah, you're going to have a bigger problem on your hands. And until you guys resolve that problem, then it's not going to be any problem anymore. Like when Giuliani was in power. Oh my God. How was New York City then? How was the crime rate there? In that city, I'm using them as an example. But what you lady are talking about here is something that makes no sense whatsoever at all.
Should be on that Supreme Court if they hadn't stopped Barack Obama. Hillary Clinton, if there had not gone the election the way we wanted it to, she would have had 2 more appointees. Mm-hmm. We would have a completely different future for our country. And the madness, the gun culture that has enveloped so many people, that is not what New Yorkers want. Again, that's another state. It's apparently the Supreme Court, but that's not what the people in my state want. And I'm here to represent them.
What do you?
Yeah. If you would have had Hillary in there, like you just mentioned earlier, we wouldn't be America anymore. We would be a communist country. Okay. Wow.
You say to young people who've been working, especially with David Hogg, who was surviving the Parkland shooting and has dedicated himself to this. He finally helped get this bill through the Senate, and now a setback like this today.
It's painful for them. Literally today, when I was about to sign legislation named after Alyssa. Who's Alyssa? A 14-year-old killed at Parkland. Her grandparents were in the room today down the road. We are going to sign a law that requires ask schools to have some sort of alarm system in the classrooms or an app on a cell phone so you can immediately get to the police when there is an incident occurring, so we don't have to get caught up in dispatch problems or anything else. When this came down, literally as I was walking the room to do this press conference, Alyssa's grandparents wept in my arms. They said, don't let this happen. Don't let this happen. We're fighting so hard. So people like David and Linda Schulman, Beagle Schulman, her son Scott was a teacher at Parkland, killed. They live in New York State. I refuse to be set back. I want people like Dave to know there are still leaders out there who are going to continue carrying the torch for this fight. This is a matter of life and death. I have 10 fewer neighbors in Buffalo, 10 minutes from my house that shooting occurred, or the children slaughtered in Uvalde. This is the cause of our time, and I'm counting on David and the members of his generation not to give up on us. The march toward justice is sometimes long and it's tumultuous, but we're not giving up.
I just really don't understand. This governor is so out of touch. It's not even funny. It's not even funny, guys. Anyway, that's all I got. Leave comments down below in the description, and just let me know what your thoughts are on this video. And you know, if you got value out of this video, as you can see on the streamer down below, do me a favor, please smash that like button, share, and subscribe to the channel. We are on a hard mission to get to 1,000 subs. All of your help and support would be greatly, greatly appreciated. Let me know what you guys thought about this video. If you're enjoying this content and wanting to see more stuff about this on Freedom Fridays, especially when it comes to any questions on Second Amendment and how you feel about it, let me know. And if I go ahead and pick one of your questions and, you know, and I pick you, I'll go ahead and give you a shout out and mention you on the next video. So I hope you guys got some really good value out of this. I will go ahead and see you all on the next one. Until then, take care.